Thank you so much. So in the beginning, I invited you to take a snapshot of how things were. And so I invite you again to take a snapshot. Like, how's your heart, your mind, your body in this moment? This is such a simple practice to redirect the attention back to the present moment that we can do at any time. What's happening in the mind? How's the heart? How's the body? So one of the things that's important to me is supporting people in practice, in meditation practice. And to that end, I'm wondering if there's anyone new to this center. Is there anyone here that's here for the first time? Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah. So this is my first time too. It's my first time teaching here. I've been here, I think the last time I was here was, who was here? Oh, it's gone now. It was a monastic. And, but this is many, many years ago, like 8 years ago or something, 9 years ago. So, and anybody newer to meditation practice? Anybody else newer to meditation practice? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was pretty still in here. I'm like, oh, people know what they're doing. And, you know, at many points during our spiritual journeys, our meditation journeys, there are places that get a little sticky, aren't there? Maybe there's things that happen in our meditation, we're like, what do I do with this? And it can be like difficult places in the mind, but also when our hearts start to open and expand, it can feel really uncomfortable, like what's happening? I remember this visceral experience that I had, like of settling into practice and being so open. I'm like, oh, I don't like it. It felt so vulnerable. And so I had to go to my teacher and say, what is this? What's happening? I don't like it, right? And then how do I meet it? So I just want to give just a few minutes for a couple of questions. If there's any places in your practice that you noticed today or maybe this week as you've been practicing where there's some stickiness or something arising that you're not quite sure what to do with. Or that's hard to meet. And it might take some bravery in this group. But.
So this wasn't recently, but I do remember sitting some years ago and a wave of rage crashed over me. And I've always been afraid of anger. And yet, like, I survived. I didn't think that could happen. And so I think there are a lot of surprises in practice.
There are so many surprises in practice. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm with an expert group. No problems in meditation. You dropped right in. You're like, I'm good. The mind stayed steady. It didn't go to the future, didn't go to the past, didn't get caught up in fantasy. Amazing.
No, I get caught up in all of that. My mind often is racing at 100 miles an hour, and I try to sit comfortably and let that happen. I think where I get a little stuck in this, maybe you can help me, would be trying to understand when I'm trying to, or maybe trying is the wrong term, when I'm sitting and letting these thoughts roll one after the other through my mind at a pace. I feel that I'm one-upping myself in a certain sense, right? I'm observing with kindness these ideas that are rolling through my mind. Sorry, I'm observing these ideas that are rolling through my mind at a great pace. I'm trying to understand a little bit, who's the observer? Like, am I just one-upping myself in a certain sense? Maybe you could comment on that or help me understand that a little.
Yeah, who's the observer? It's such a good question. And I think there are some questions that are living questions, which is a teacher speak for saying, I'm not going to answer the question. Like, and what I will do is it's watch the mind getting caught in trying to figure out who the observer is while you're practicing. Can we simply know, oh, there is something, someone that we're calling observer, knowing the arising of experience, knowing the thoughts arising, knowing what you're calling a racing mind, right? And can you include it all? Can you include the trying to figure it all out and then come back to simply knowing direct experience? Oh, thinking. Oh, racing. Oh, wanting to figure it out. And then we can go a little bit deeper and see, is there in the wanting to figure it out something that is uneasy in not knowing? Right? And can we meet that with a lot of kindness? Oh, dear one, yeah, of course you want to know, because maybe this is a way that keeps us safe. Can I be in that dis-ease? And in this way we drop deeper and deeper and deeper and get to some both like some discernment about how to be with, and like some refinement in how to be and what to be with, right? Is that helpful at all?
Very, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, good, thank you. So any other questions specifically about practice? Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi.
I have trouble sometimes giving myself permission to settle on one thing when I'm practicing. I will kind of, let the mind go at the beginning and see where it wants to settle. And then when it does, I have trouble saying, it's okay to stay here and examine it closely.
What is the thought that you should be doing? Like what?
I think part of it is there something more important, or is there something that is making me obsess about this in particular, rather than approaching it with more kindness and less judgment, and
Okay.
accepting that it might be important for me to examine.
Yeah. We won't know unless we check it out, will we? So there's that part. But also there's this, this indecision. We can call that a hindrance of doubt, right? And so we want to recognize doubt quickly and drop it, and then stay. And there too might be something like it might be a little hard. And so there might be something protecting, like, we're not ready, right? And so we also have to honor that. Yeah. And so if there's really we're not ready, what can we support that will help us get ready? Like, what can we incline to? And so maybe we need to stick with some loving kindness practice for a little while. Oh, yeah, okay. And then go check it out. And here's the thing with practice. Sometimes we think we have to go to I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to go in to the hardest thing, and I'm going to make it okay by changing it and figuring it out and getting rid of it. Is that our practice? Yeah. So some people are saying, yeah, that is what I do. But is that our practice? Right? Our practice is to be with things the way they are. Like to meet them with a lot of kindness. And sometimes we're ready, and so then there's many skillful ways to go in and go out. We can go to someplace neutral in the body, right, and just rest there. and get some steadiness of mind, right? And then go check it out with real gently. And then we can come back, or rest our attention where it's easy, where there's some peace or joy, and then come back and check it out. It's not supportive, it's not, I don't know, I don't think it's such a good use of time to just go in and it's not so kind, right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. There's another question.
How do you recognize when your mind is about to slip without giving into it? So how do you recognize it and kind of stay in the present?
Yeah. How do you recognize? So are you saying how do you recognize the mind is going to slip? How do you recognize the mind is about to go into thought?
Without indulging in that thought.
Yeah. It was a lot of practice. Yeah. And watch if there's any belief that the mind's supposed to be doing something else, and any judgment about it slipping, and include that too, right? The mind, what does it do? It thinks. Thank goodness. It's so helpful for us to get through our lives, right? So the mind will go off this way and this way and this way, and our whole practice is recognizing when it's gone off and then coming back, right? And at some point, we take it as an object too, right? We can include all of it. But I want to say it's not a problem, right? It's not a problem. This is what the mind does. Well, let's include that too. Yeah. And you can notice at some point, oh, it's about to go, right? And be whoop, nope. And it also becomes less interesting, and then it's not there's not us doing it. The mind just stays. There's some steadiness. That's a possibility. Okay?
And a follow-up question, oftentimes when I find that my mind has slipped and I'm not in the present, I like to trace my thoughts backwards to figure out where it got distracted. Is that helpful, or?
And maybe it's more thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think it is helpful maybe to note where it went and to notice patterns, general patterns. Oh, planning, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then we can come back and notice oh, is there a worry here? That is, I think, coming back to the body and saying, oh, what's here? What's maybe the mind is helping solve or avoiding, right? I think that is a more useful way. Yeah, thank you. Okay, maybe that's good for now. I have this piece of paper that I'm going to pull out with some notes on it. And then we'll see what happens. Isn't that what we're always doing? We're just seeing what happens. Our minds, our hearts. At the top it says refinement and discernment. Right. And so it's so heartening to be here with you. I still haven't, except for at retreat centers. I teach at Spirit Rock and IMS and another retreat center called Vallecitos, which is in northern New Mexico. A lot of groups aren't in person yet, still. Right? And so it's really a joy to be in person. I don't take it for granted, And it says oh, there's something that you all came for. I hope it wasn't me. But there's something that calls us, or maybe in the beginning of my practice I was a seeker. There just was something that wasn't working in my life, right? I had a lot of anger and fear and doubt, sadness and grief and depression, right? When I and I've started on my path. And it wasn't like path to Buddhism. I took this, found a church that I really liked, and eventually found the Dhamma. And it was always there in some way. Like, it was very present in my life because my stepmom practiced Buddhism and had her Kuan Yin altar outside my room, right? And would chant every day. But as often, like with our parents, things are like, I'm not doing that. That's something, And somehow, here I am, which makes her very happy. Yeah. And so something brought you here today. And maybe for some of you, this is always where you come on Sunday mornings. And for some of you, maybe you're a little bit newer to practice. Maybe a friend brought you. They're like, check out this thing called mindfulness. There's a center. You should go. Right? So there's something that brought us, and then there's something that keeps us here. Right? And for me, I reference this heart-opening thing that happened. It was on the first retreat that I went to at Spirit Rock, and I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't like it. But I knew something was changing, like internally, that I was gaining access to something that was like good, in the sense of non-harming, that was helpful and supportive to me being the person I wanted to be in the world. And so I think it's so helpful to reflect on what keeps us coming. Like, what is it that we're curious about in our practice, in our hearts, in our minds? Right? And also, what are those edges? What are those places that we notice maybe we're not showing up in ways that are so kind or helpful? Like, externally, internally, and both, right? And our practice, our meditative practice, can support us in this discernment. And this thing called mindfulness or awareness, hopefully you don't only do it here. But maybe that's where we start. You're like, oh, maybe for 5 years we just come and this is our practice, and then it goes out the window the rest of the week. That's a possibility, and it's not a problem, right? I taught a retreat last year, and there was a student who was pretty angry at the conditions of the retreat. The people that they thought should be there weren't there. And they didn't like the silence and didn't get the whole meditation thing. But yet, we're at a retreat. and so they didn't show up to everything. They kind of did their own thing. But they had lots of questions. And they kept going where I was and showing up. And ended up living at a couple of different Dharma centers, but still didn't meditate. And almost a year in, they're like, okay, can you teach me how to meditate? I'm like, okay, I will teach you how to meditate. I was kind of excited. And so I was just like, all right, let's sit down. We tried a couple different meditations. And I was like, can you just do this for 5 minutes a day? For 5 minutes a day. So maybe that's where we start. 5 minutes a day. And they recently came to visit me and were like, Victoria, for the last 40 days, I've been sitting for 30 minutes a day. So something shifted. It took them a minute to get it. And their way in was through community. They went to live at these centers and get to know the people. And what they were being shown is how people were living their lives, what their values were, right? That they were living with deep integrity and inclining both their minds, their words, and their actions towards that which was helpful, that which was kind, that which was generous, that which was beneficial, right? And that got them really interested. Oh, if in this scene there are these good people that show up in ways that I want to show up, there must be something to this, right? And then we get in there a little bit and we're like, oh, this place is hard. This is, I don't like this quality of my mind. Or how the mind reacts to particular stimuli. And then we're like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? How do I meet this? So often I ask students, like, okay, when you notice something in the mind, this is the question I ask, how did you meet it? How did you meet that? And they're like, what do you mean, meet it? I didn't meet it. I just put it down. I went back to my breath. Is that helpful all the time? No. Right? Yeah. So we can start to notice as we refine our practice, like all the parts. Like how are we meeting ourselves? How are we meeting these broken hearts or joyful hearts? And so it seems that sometimes people miss this part about how we are with ourselves. It's often so easy to be generous and kind and stand up for others, and not so easy to do this for ourselves. And it all matters, right? So on the cushion, off the cushion, can we start to stay here, right here, present with things, whatever they are, more often. And when we stay here with whatever's arising more often, then we have more choice, don't we? Right? We have more choice because we're in real time meeting, responding to what's arising. And we can't do that if we're not here for it, not here for our lives. And sometimes it is so difficult, right? And so then we have to find these ways to have some balance, right? There's so many moments in a day, like just mind moments, if you will, right? And we can't ignore the ones, well, don't ignore any of them, right? But also really don't ignore the ones where there's some peace and joy and kindness and, I don't know, generosity and love, like both internally, externally, and both, right? Because this is so supportive in our practice. This, like inclining to that which is wholesome and helpful. So my teacher has anyone been to Nepal? Anyone been to Lumbini? Yeah. What's Lumbini? Why is that a famous place? Yeah, birthplace of the Buddha. Yeah. And so my teacher's very interested in what's happening in my practice, right? Like, I don't know, okay, what are you paying attention to? How long are you staying there? Right, so that's part of it. Like every day there's a little refinement. 6 days a week when I go with them, they're checking in about my practice. And then like, okay, just do a little bit more of this, bring in a little bit more equanimity, bring in a little bit more concentration. Okay, back off a little bit, right? Like there's that kind of discernment. But you know what they really want to know is, what am I inclining the mind to? Is there more kindness, Victoria? Are there more wholesome states arising every day? Right? They're very interested in that. And why are they interested in that? They're interested in it because it's a supportive condition for me to stay present, right? And so we can check at any moment in our day, like, oh, what are we inclining towards? What are we feeding? Do you ask yourself these questions? Like with that snapshot, okay, what's in the mind right now? Oh, I'm being harsh on myself, right? Can I meet myself with kindness? Do you think it matters? Do you think it counts? It does. I mean, and check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. But it does. You matter. Be kind to yourself. What are you cultivating? It can be helpful to remember why. We're not just doing it for ourselves, are we? We're doing it for our communities, our families, our friends. We don't keep it. And you couldn't, right? Even if you tried, I'm going to keep all this goodness for myself. No. Right? The generosity comes out. The love comes out. The joy comes out. The exuberance comes out. And likewise, the frustration, the irritation, the judgment, the ways that we aren't kind also come out. And I don't mention those things to judge or to judge, but we need to be honest. Like, oh, what's actually here? Like, and is this helpful? Is this kind? Is this beneficial to the world that I want to live in or not? And so we have to be real honest with ourselves. Like really honest with ourselves. Not in order to beat ourselves up, but just to have the information so we know what we're working with. In the beginning, I knew what I was working with. I was working with a lot of anger and fear, and I didn't know that there was fear there in the beginning. And depression, right? But I had to be really honest with myself about that so I could learn how to meet it and learn what the antidote was. The beautiful thing about this practice is like whatever we're doing, whatever we're meeting or practicing, wherever we are on the path, we're deepening if we're paying attention, right? I often joke, I like to wait for people to come into the room. And so I often joke like, oh, this is waiting practice, right? How often do you do waiting practice in your life? And if we can stay there and hold it as waiting practice, then maybe it doesn't tip into frustration or judgment. Here they are, they're late again, or, I drove down and I live in the East Bay. And guess what? On a Sunday morning, there's no traffic. I got here so fast. It was amazing, right? And so there's many gifts of living in the Bay Area where we can practice patience. Traffic is one of them. And so what are the ways in which we can integrate these principles that support us in deepening in our practice in everything? And can we catch it? Can we notice more often? Right? And our, like the still meditation practice we do supports this setting of the mind and supports interest in staying present with things the way they are. And sometimes we're stuck in traffic. And can we know and meet like the frustration or the worry about being late and watch what the mind does? Okay, I'm going to be late, and then I'm going to, I don't know, they're going to be mad at me, or whatever the thing is. And my suggestion, and I'd say the Buddhist suggestion would be, actually, let's stay here with how things are. Okay, some frustrations here, but here we are in traffic. Let's accept that and see what happens instead of making up a story about what's going to happen. Have you ever been late to something and you're meeting a friend and you put so much pressure on yourself and then they were late too and it was perfect? I was like, oh. And you spent 20 minutes being hard on yourself for not getting out of the house on time. Right? And in reality, it wasn't a problem. So even if we can just get to that, even if we can just get to actually meeting what's actually happening in real time more often with some kindness, we're making a lot of progress instead of either lamenting the dream of the past or living this made-up future. Right? Maybe you had some idea about what was going to happen this morning, and it's totally different. Right? I had lots of ideas about things I was going to talk about, but this is what I'm talking about. There's a light little script, but I kind of threw it out the window. So can we stay here? And what happens when we do? And it was so fun to go into meditation, and then I heard people come in, and then I opened my eyes. I'm like, oh, more people. Oh, what a joy and delight. Right? So what are we cultivating? Do you know what you're cultivating? Are you paying attention? What are you cultivating in this moment? Let's pay attention to that. What do we want to incline to? Can we incline to more generosity, to patience, to kindness, to compassion? And when we notice that that's not what's happening in our experience, can we not then be harsh with ourselves or cruel? Because then what are we doing? We're supporting cruelness and harshness, right? Let's meet ourselves with kindness, and then that's what we're doing. Then that's what we're inclining towards. It is that simple. It's not so easy, but it is that simple. And then at some point, along the path, we wake up and we've met our mistake with compassion. That's huge. Maybe not for you. Maybe you just came out, this compassionate being with yourself, but I didn't. Or then we find we're stuck in traffic and it's not a problem. Or waiting in line and it's an opportunity to practice. Oh, wow, I get to practice for 5 minutes with this cacophony of sound around me. Right? Then each moment is like a gift because we get to incline towards these supportive conditions that are not dependent on external conditions, but on internal conditions to support our deepening and awakening and refinement in our practice. It's all pretty exciting to me. Maybe that's enough for me. Well, we do have a few minutes for questions. Do y'all know what your edges are? Yeah, Scott, please. We'll get you a mic.
Good morning.
Hi.
I found myself very thinky this morning,
Uh-huh.
and I would awaken to that fact and bring myself back for with kindness. And bang, I was off to the races again, thinking. And I guess I feel like I'm meeting the moment with kindness, like to myself. But it sort of feels futile in a way that it just was so strong, this inclination. And I even tried welcoming it in, come on in, you're here. And I was just wondering if you had anything to say beyond sort of just keep on keeping on with that.
Yeah. So, there's a few things I can say. One is sometimes we just have to say, oh, we're not going to do, that's not what we're doing right now. Like, we're going to stay here and what's your anchor?
Nominally my breath, but I sometimes find it productive to abandon that and just kind of go into an open awareness.
What were you doing this morning?
Perseverating on my breath, I guess. And not very successfully, like that. So.
Yeah. And is that where the mind went? Was it thinking about the breath actually, or was it in some thought world about the future or something?
Yeah, it was in the thought world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning, or like what category of thought? You don't have to say, but
Yeah, I was stupid.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a judgment. All right, catch it.
It's embarrassing.
Okay, you don't have to say it. You don't
Well,
have to
no,
say it.
now I want to share it. So
Yeah.
I was just like reviewing this proof for the Pythagorean theorem. Like the silliest
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was here this morning? Like, when you came back, okay, you came back with love to your anchor, right? Yeah. And did you notice, like, in the body, was there any tension or anything hard to be with or any emotion? Was there anything that you were avoiding, is my question? Or was there boredom present? Or something?
Well, I was aware that I was kind of being judgmental about my experience, and I know that's not a good practice. But,
Okay. So you're being judgmental about your
second order.
experience
Yeah.
because the mind was going, and then there was judgment about the judgment, maybe.
Yes, but then I was also kind of forgiving myself for that too. So
Yeah.
it was busy.
Yeah. Okay, it was busy. So yeah, and it is sometimes like this. And then we can know what it's like to be busy. Like, can we actually feel the suffering of the busyness and feel the suffering of wanting things to be different than they are? And what happens when we drop into, like, oh, this is how they are right now, dear one. This is hard. And, like, bring a lot of care into that. But the fighting it maybe isn't so helpful. But the resting and meeting in the suffering of wanting it to be different, now that's getting us somewhere, right? Can we meet that fully? And then the mind is off again, and then we come back, and then the mind is off. And this is strengthening something. And so, do you think every sit that every teacher has is or blissed out? No. Right? And there's a way that we can observe the mind going, and the irritation, like I'm doing this with my hand, the irritation that is there with, or agitation, like of the mind, or the restlessness, or wanting things to be different, and include it. So can we include all of it? Like, it's not a problem. And sometimes I tell myself, it's not a problem. Okay, the mind is thinking. Can I just stay with, I want it to be different, right?
Guess I felt like I need to do more of this. Like, I sat earlier this morning too, and the second session was a little marginally, well, it's passing a judgment on it again, but it felt like it was a little bit more meditative, or inclining the mind in a more constructive way.
Yeah, so let's be careful of thinking that there's supposed to be a certain state happening for you to be practicing. It's not about any state. It's about meeting what's actually arising fully in real time. And that's the practice. That's always the practice. That's it. And sometimes the mind is all over the place, and there's agitation, and there's restlessness in the body, restlessness in the mind. Can we meet that? That's the practice. That is always the practice. It's not about a state. And sometimes states happen. Sometimes calm happens, right? So trust me on this one. Like, let go of that part, because that's just torture. Yeah, okay? Yeah. So I think we have to stop now. But I'd like to dedicate the merit of our practice and our time together, if that's okay. Let's take another minute or two. Just appreciating our willingness to show up this morning, to show up to practice meditation, to hear the Dhamma, to be in community, to appreciate ourselves for our willingness to meet things just the way they are. And so, first, may the benefits of our practice benefit us in our deepening, in our awakening, in our learning, in our discernment, in our inclining to that which is wholesome and kind. And then may our practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere, without exception. May all beings be safe and protected from all internal and external harm. May all beings be peaceful and happy and healthy and as strong as possible. And may all beings be free. Thank you so much for your kind attention and for your practice. I'm going to hang out. There's a potluck apparently.